Welcome to Madame Raven's. This way to the library. She's been expecting you.
Seven Fingers to Lose Your Soul by Scare in a Box. As a young child, my grandmother would often tell me about the ancient art of odds and evens. From the age of 5, I started training with those in my village to become the ultimate contestant and win every single round. Essentially, it's a game. It began with my ancestors. However, not all games ran as smoothly as they'd hoped. And as a consequence, my people today have to deal with their mistakes. My people believe that their souls are the ultimate life source that must be contained after they die. My duty was easy to fulfill. I was the one responsible for protecting their souls and ensuring none would be lost. Sometimes you must pay for the mistakes of others, my grandmother would tell me. This inspired me, encouraged me, and taught me that I am in control of only what I can control. It took me 7 years to get where I am now. 12 years old and the best player of all time. Unlike my ancestors, I don't make mistakes. At least, I don't choose to. Today was the long-awaited day for my village, but especially for my grandmother. She had raised me throughout my odds and evens education. She was the one who told me ancient folklore and trained me as a young child. I was going to keep her in my mind during every match to remind myself that I was doing this for her. They called me Raya, the stealthy, smartest, and most secretive in the game. I was the one person out of everyone in my village destined for victory. However, I owe a lot of my success and abilities to my grandmother. Everyone else in the village that trained alongside me cheered me on as I walked through the town. It was early in the morning. Still, the enthusiasm and excitement did not go unnoticed. It was the most important day in all of history, and I was going to be a part of it. Despite my inner fears, I kept cool, calm, and collected to appease my friends and family. I didn't want anyone to smell my fear or even sense it in the slightest. I was the best, and nothing was going to change that, not even hell itself. Odds and evens may seem self-explanatory and easy, but there is more to it than just sheer luck. It's strategy and cunning that help you succeed. With one hand only, you get to make the decision and have the controls. The only obstacle is the move the other player makes. See, I was always very good at predicting the other player's movement. I had the ability to psych them out using my eyes and a slight turn of my lips. My grandmother taught me how to be intimidating, cautious, and devious. My brother was never quite as good as I was, though he tried. We would play every day as children when it was something fun to pass the time. Now, it's life or death, and everyone takes it very, very seriously. The champion of hell is the most successful player in the entire sphere of hell. With only one hand, but 7 fingers. There's no chance of succeeding him. That was until I qualified to play him. Me, a 12-year-old girl from a small, vulnerable village. The news excited most people, but not me. I had to train even harder. Practice day and night and finding loopholes to distract the creature from my obvious wit and charm. It wasn't just a game. What was at stake was more valuable than any prize. The souls of everyone in my village. The saying, with great power comes great responsibility, is very much necessary in this instance. I may have been the best in my village, with 5 fingers on one hand. Still, I had no idea how to play against someone with supernatural abilities and extra fingers. All I knew is that I needed to win, and there was no need to be an even chance of me doing so in order to protect each and every soul. All the villagers scattered in the central plaza, surrounding a large mahogany table and a grand throne on one end. There he sat, in all his evil glory, the champion of hell, his hands steepled, exposing his 7 fingers. He was large, red, and smiling creepily as the villagers cheered for the match to begin. The judge was heavenly, all white and glowing with positivity. I imagined both my personalities right in front of me, the good Raya and the bad Raya. Today, I was going to be both. My grandmother squeezed my hand as they all got ready to take their seats, her eyes bright and round as she stared into my soul. "You are the only champion in the room, Raya," she spoke softly, her squeaky voice causing me to smile immediately. "Thank you, Grandma. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. There's no one else nearly as capable. You will succeed, Raya." I watched my family walk towards the front row and took a deep breath. I can't believe everything I've ever worked for is coming to an end. This is it. I was going to win or I was going to lose everything, and losing is definitely not an option. As I stared at the champion in front of me on the grand black and gold throne glistening in the light, I had to remind myself not to expose any fear. He would not smell it, sense it, feel it, or hear it. Walking up to the end of the table, I smirked in his direction, without any hesitation or glint of fear, just like Grandmother taught me. "Well, well, well," the creature boomed, his voice bouncing off each wall like a boomerang. "Odds or evens?" "Evens," I said confidently and just as loudly as him. Our eyes lingered on one another for a moment. I could hear his chest growl, and he huffed loudly. I was glad he didn't challenge it. I won with evens every time I played. There was no way I was going to in with odds. "Welcome, welcome," the heavenly judge announced, settling the vivacious crowd. The room went quiet immediately, and an eerie feeling consumed the air around us. "We are here to govern the clash between the champion of hell and Raya, yearning." Silence. "The first and final best out of 5. Players, take your positions." Silence. "Once the sand glass is complete, the first round will start." My eyes glazed over the room. I looked over at my family and my grandmother and gave them a small smile. The devil in front of me looked only in my direction. He really was hell on earth. I could hear the dripping sand through the engulfing silence of the room, and then it stopped. The crowd started to cheer, but only ringing rang through my ears. It was happening. "Round 1!" the judge screamed, and before I could even register what was happening, I threw my hand in the air. 4 of my fingers and 1 of his 7. Odds. The cheering came to a halt. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't deafening. It was loud. Each lost round will cost a soul in the village. My eyes scoured the crowd before I could make a sound. I watched my grandmother fall to the ground. Instantly I screamed. No other reaction would have made sense at that moment. As much as I wanted to remain confident and intimidating, I screamed. I watched as the blue orb floated over her body and into the sky, my parents holding each other and crying. I can't believe I lost. "Round 2, the judge yelled, without even acknowledging the life that had just passed. Shaken, I barely had time to consider my next move before it happened. 2 of my fingers, and again, 1 of his. Odds. My eyes zapped to my family. Another scream escaped my mouth. My brother! I watched as his small body fell to the ground, and the sounds of my mother and father were deadly. I looked at the creature, smirking brightly at me. I knew his tactics were to destabilize me. I needed to concentrate. I looked at my mother, tears streaming down my eyes. "I love you," I whispered. "If I lose the next round, all will be lost." I took a deep breath and remembered everything my grandmother ever taught me. Sometimes you must pay for the mistakes of others. Round 3. One finger shot into the air, matching the creature. I started to wonder why he had 7 fingers if he only planned on using one of them. Evens. I won the round, and the creature lost 3 of his fingers. I watched in awe as the last 3 fingers on his long, silky hand disintegrated right in front of my eyes. His shocked facial expression matched that of mine when I lost my grandmother and little brother. This wasn't a game anymore. It was war. "Round 4, the judge called, wasting no time in between rounds to heal or recover. 1, 2, 3. My first shot into the air. 4 of my fingers were thrown up. The creature displayed 2 fingers. Evens. Another round I had won. I watched again 3 of his fingers disappear. He screamed in pain, and the sight made me snicker happily. He only had 1 finger left. It was the last round, the decisive match. There was no way I could lose this round. The creature closed one of his eyes and looked directly at me. It felt like my soul was burning on fire. Round 5. I put my hand over my chest, trying to calm myself down, but it was no use. On the count of 3, 2 of my fingers shot up. Odds. How could this be? I thought to myself as the room went silent. I went to throw 3 fingers in the air, but he distracted me and used his ability to get inside my head. The creature stood up, his horns bright red and a big smile plastered across his face. I stood there heartbroken, defeated and desolate. I failed my people. The village was now ruined because of me, until the judge called everyone to silence. Upon further inspection, the creature is announced disqualified, the judge declared. The entire room erupted in cheers. It seems one of his eyes was floating around the sphere and called Raya's numbers before she even threw them up. He used his master manipulation to change her fingers at the last minute. The creature, furious, began to scream thunderously at the judge. His fists were banged against the mahogany table. "I won!" I muttered to myself in disbelief. "I can't believe it." Everyone in the village clapped and hollered, and the judge stared lovingly at me. As punishment for his crime, the souls that were taken will be returned to their bodies. Raya is declared the ultimate champion of odds and evens. I immediately ran towards my family and grabbed my grandmother's hand as her body lay still on the floor. Soon enough, the blue orbs that belonged to the most important people in my life returned into their bodies. My brother was first to wake up. He coughed into his breath, and I ran into his arms. My grandmother followed suit soon after. I held her close to me and sobbed with my family. "Did you win, Raya?" my grandmother asked, her voice shaky and rough. "Yes, you're the champion." She smiled at me with her frail body returning back to normal. "No, we're the champions." So quoth this raven. The Water Park by FREDDEGRAN. A very different kind of water park. I was going with my school class to a new water park. We were all excited, but I think mostly me and my friend Isabel. We both wanted to be Olympic swimmers and both had potential. I was the best boy swimmer in our state, and Isabel was the best girl. After changing and taking a shower, we met outside of the locker room. I was wearing my new black Puma swimming shorts, and Isabel was wearing a bright red bikini. We were just friends, but I could see how she was developing into a woman, and a very pretty one at that. Whoa, this park was huge. It had the biggest swimming pool I'd ever seen, by far outclassing anything I'd ever been to before, and I'd been to a lot of swimming halls. One thing was strange, though. There were so many cameras everywhere. Isabel joked that it was just probably some old perv watching us. I'd not seen any cameras in the locker rooms, at least, and neither had she. We played with the rest of the class on those floating tubes, played with the balls, splashed water on each other. We explored the park, every single attraction. Water slides. I raced Isabel and won, chillaxed in the bubble pool. There even was a cave that looked like a human skull with water running down as sharp teeth. It was a bit too scary and realistic looking for me, but Isabel was braver than me. She grabbed my arm, and I followed inside the cold water of the skull's fake teeth, splashing me like a cold shower on my way inside. Inside were just another place you could sit and relax with some bubbles. I noticed a sign on the wall and had to show it to Isabel. The sign said, Water Zoo, and not Water Park. Isabel agreed that this indeed seemed strange, but it was probably just a printing error. Anyway, there was no time to think about it, as the megaphones announced that it was now time for the waves. They had a wave-making machine, and it was the park's most popular attraction. So we had to swim out and play in the waves before they were over. We were out playing in the pool for the duration of the waves. After they were over, me and Isabel wanted to see if any one of us could dive to the bottom on the deep end. We both held our breaths and did it, swam all the way to the bottom, and I found the most peculiar and strange thing. It seemed like a hatch on the floor of the pool. I tried to open it, but to no avail. Isabel tried to help, but even together we couldn't manage to open the hatch. We decided this was another weird thing to add to the cameras and the wrong label sign in the cave. We thought it would be best to swim back onto land and talk to the others about what this could all mean. We were swimming to get ashore, but when we got there, huge fences, too big to climb over, were raised from the ground. Now this was not only strange, but bat crap crazy, possibly illegal to keep us inside like this. A kid grabbed the fences, and he was electrocuted. Now this was beyond effed up, electrocuting kids. That's abuse. And me and Isabel had to hold him up so that he didn't drown. I could feel the camera zooming in at me and Isabel holding the kid's head above water. The speakers announced, Welcome to the Aqua Zoo. Feeding time for the piranhas. Did I hear that right? Feeding time? Piranhas? This must be a late April Fool's joke. But yet they came, proving this was no laughing matter. They began to chew on the kid and my hands and feet. Isabel, I don't want to leave this kid, but we have to. Yeah, I know. Isabel agreed with tears in her eyes. We swam away from the piranhas, the water turning dark red with the blood from the dead kids. I could see my crush floating dead in the water in her pink bikini. She'd always been the prettiest girl at school. But now she was no longer, now with half of her face eaten by piranhas. I looked around and estimated about half of the kids to still be alive, the other half drowned or eaten. We saw some kids gathering at the floating tubes, holding on to them for dear life. It seemed like a smart plan. I grabbed hold of a floating toy shaped like a pillar and was met with a punch to the face. Every man for himself. The blonde kid who had punched me said, "Freak, me and Isabella were great swimmers, but we couldn't swim forever." Isabel approached the mean kid. "Give me one good reason I should let you live," he asked of her. "I can give you two." She smiled and took her top off. Her trick worked, and the kid let her hold on, just to get a good look at her melons. She grabbed her top. "You're not going to put it back on, are you? I'm kicking you and your boyfriend can both drown for all I care," he said. "He's not my boyfriend, and I'm not putting it on." She used her top to strangle him to death. She used her female charm like Princess Leia on Jabba the Hutt in Star Wars. Clever girl. She put her top back on and let me hold on for dear life. We got two other kids. Hold on. Marcus, a dark-haired boy, not a good swimmer, and Lacey, a dark-haired emo girl who somehow had gotten a pink rose tattooed on her left leg. Sadly, no more kids could hold on. Our class of 25 kids when we got here, and now it seemed we were only 8 left alive anyway. The piranhas had went back, but we couldn't swim forever. And that's when I remembered. The hatch! It's got to be our way out of here. Me and Isabel, Marcus and Lacey all went to investigate the hatch, and it opened. It was no way out, however. "Shark feeding time," the speakers announced. A giant, great white shark emerged from the now fully opened hatch. It bit Lacey in half with its giant mouth full of sharp teeth. We swam to the other kids as fast as we could. Marcus was, of course, not fast enough. The shark swallowed him whole. Me and Isabel went back to the other kids. 3 were still holding on, and one of them, Pontius, a blond boy, was floating dead in the water. Had he drowned himself, or had the other kids killed him? It was better not to think of it. Just 5 kids left in Aqua Zoo. Let's see who can make it back to land. The fences were submerged. I couldn't believe it. Would they really give us a chance to live? Place your bets on the winner now. Eric, that was me. Isabel, my best friend. Patrick, a Chinese kid. Lara, a Latina girl. Or Katja, a pink-haired SJW girl. Me and Isabel both had the edge, and we knew it. Time to take advantage of our swimming skills. An octopus pulled Katja under the water by grabbing her legs. Sadly, there was nothing I could do to try to save her. Just 4 kids left. Place your bets. Somebody was betting on which kids would live or die. It was truly sickening. I could feel the great white chasing after me. The bottom half of Lacey came floating by. I recognized her pink rose tattoo on her left leg. An electric eel took a bite of Lara's face and electrocuted her. 3 kids left. Place your bets. I could see Isabel, now the only girl left swimming in her red bikini, on my right side. In between us was Patrick, the Chinese boy. He was a great swimmer, able to keep up with us. We were almost at land now. Patrick grabbed Isabel's long blonde hair and attempted to drown her. The shark was after me, but I could not leave my best friend to die. I swam towards him and punched him straight in his balls. Hard. He let go of Isabel, and she put his head under the water and began to splash wildly with his arms and legs. But she did not let that guy go. After I punched his stupid, ugly face, then the shark caught up with us. It bit his legs, and of the other smaller sharks came to fight for the leftovers. Me and Isabel swam faster than we ever had before in our lives. We knew that our lives depended on it. I kept thinking if the game would let us both win or only one. It didn't matter. I could not kill my best friend, and I had to believe she would not kill me. I got ashore a bit before her. She was walking after me, and the fence emerged. She was crawling over it, being electrocuted, and I pulled her off. My mom and dad came to pick me up. Isabel was put in the hospital, severely damaged, but she would live, they told me. My mom and dad shouted at me angrily when I went into the car. They told me that now we had to split the winning money with Isabel's parents. They told me I was a fool to save her. They told me I should have left her to die. So quoth this raven. Thank you so kindly for stopping by my chateau, my darlings. It does mean so much to me. Please, if you have not subscribed, as many of you have not, please do so. Give me a like so I know what you would like to hear. And comment. I always love to read your comments. And special thanks to my Patreon and membership supporters. Ciao, darlings.